This is a Toyota Aygo, and for those who don't know, it's the same car under the skin as the Citreon C1 and the Peugeot 107. Now if you're in the market for a small, used, affordable car, one of these should be at the top of your list in my opinion. They're superbly reliable. However, that being said, like the rest of us, they're getting on a little bit, so you do tend to see the occasional age-related problem creep in. In this video, I'm going to show you what all those common problems tend to be, all the common issues these cars can get, so you can go out and get the best one possible. Let's get into it. So let's kick off with the engines, and yes, engines, plural. So a lot of people thought that these little cars only came with that 1 litre engine. That's the one that you usually tend to see them with. But there was actually a 1.4 diesel offered in these cars, bizarrely enough as well. Now it was as rare as hen's teeth, you tend never to see it, and the reason for that is it wasn't really any more economical than the little 1 litre petrol engine. It wasn't quite as reliable, it wasn't even as powerful, so really there's not much point to it. Stick with the little 1 litre. Now these are fantastic little engines. It's actually a 998cc Daihatsu engine, and you see them get on for 160, 170,000 miles fairly frequently. However, as I said, the odd age-related issue is starting to creep in. So let's get the bonnet popped and I'll show you. So one of the main things you want to be on the lookout for under here is right at the front of the engine. We've got the exhaust manifold that comes out, swoops round into the catalytic converter. That's why you'll often see these referred to as a maniverter, because it's an exhaust manifold and catalytic converter built into one. Now these can start to corrode, and when they do, they can start to blow around the edges. Best way to spot this, have your friend or the seller, whoever it is, get in, start the car up, maybe rev it up a little bit and have a listen. You'll hear that distinct hissing noise that you tend to get from a blowing exhaust. What you can also do is have a look around the edges of that maniverter where it meets the engine block and look for any particularly sooty bits coming off of it. That can sometimes give it away where it's blown from. Now another big plus on these little 1 litres is they're timing chain equipped. That means you don't have any expensive timing belt change to worry about. But what it does mean is it's even more prudent that we see a bit of service history on the car that you're thinking about buying. The reason for that is knowing that that car's had fresh oil does wonders for the longevity of that chain inside the engine. I have seen the occasional one of these now get a little bit rattly. Usually they're on mega mileage and they've been a little bit neglected. So seeing that service history goes a long way of giving you a little bit of peace of mind. Now don't mistake a rattly engine, a rattly timing chain for how these engines normally sound, because they are 3-cylinder. These warbly little 3-cylinders can be a little bit rattly anyway. I'll put a clip in now of one that's got a timing chain problem just for reference. Now, one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you is I would really advise buying one of these little cars based on condition and service history. Try not to worry too much about the specification on the car that you're buying, but that being said, remember, these are basic cars, so everything that we tend to take for granted, electric windows, remote central locking, this kind of thing, wasn't always standard on these cars. Let me give you a bit of a breakdown of the different specifications that they came with. So the first thing to know is there was a facelift of these cars in 2012. If you're buying before that, the specifications are a little different from after that. Before 2012, they came as the T2 and the T3. Now the T2, that was the most basic Aygo you could get. The T3, that's when they added things like the electric windows and central locking to them. You also got a sport model before 2012 as well, and that's how you got things like the alloy wheels and the front fog lights. You also got a little rev counter fixed on the dash, which was quite neat as well. Now, post 2012, after the facelift, they simplified it a little bit, so it just became the Aygo, which was the most basic one, the Aygo Plus, which was your lecky windows and that kind of thing, and then 2 special editions. First special edition was the Fire. Now that was a sporty edition, and again that brought things like alloy wheels, the rev counter, the fog lights, and then you got the Ice, which is what this one is. That was more of a comfort based special edition, so you got things like Bluetooth and aircon as standard. Long story short, basically make sure the one that you're looking at has actually got the options that you need. Don't take it for granted that it will have them. Now you could also get these Aygos as an automatic, but quite honestly, you probably didn't want to, because it wasn't a torque converter, it was an automated manual gearbox, and it was just it was a little bit clunky and slow, and apart from that, it could be less reliable because it was a bit more complicated. And then when the cars needed a clutch, you had to have the dealership level software in order to do a clutch reset. Unlike a manual car, you just put a clutch in and away you go, easy to maintain. They were just a bit more complicated. So quite honestly, if you can stick with the manual, do exactly that. And I mentioned the clutch there. On that note, it is a bit of an Achilles heel of these cars, so when you do go view one, you want to be making sure that that clutch is okay. You can tell by where the clutch is biting, so ideally you want it about the middle of the pedal, but if it's just had a clutch and it's still biting quite near the top, don't worry too much about it. It might just be that the mechanic who put that clutch in there, they haven't adjusted it correctly. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get the car out on the road for a bit of a test drive, and I can demonstrate it a little bit more clearly to you. Next up, I'm going to go on and talk about what may well be the biggest single problem that these Aygos or C1s or 107s face. Before I get onto that, however, quick favour ask from you. If you're getting value from this video, can you please go ahead and hit the like button below, maybe leave a comment, and also I create these buyer's guides for literally every type of car. So this channel might be a worthwhile subscribe for you as well. I'll leave that up to you. Okay, so this big problem, you can probably predict it somewhat yourself. It's rust and corrosion, especially here in the UK, and these little cars, like many others, are susceptible to it. Now, where to start with this issue is with MOT histories. I feel a lot of people don't value these enough. Every car is subject to an inspection by a mechanic that knows what he's doing at least once a year. Looking through this can give you a real good insight as to what that car's like before you've even left your house. And often it can give you more of an insight because we're rolling around on the floor trying to view it in someone's driveway. They've had it on a ramp and had a proper good look at it within the last 12 months. However, that being said, when you do go and view it, this is what you want to be checking. Now, it goes without saying, this can be a little bit challenging, can't it? We don't have a lift, we don't have a jack, you're viewing the car ad hoc, you're on someone's driveway, you're at the side of a road, whatever it happens to be. Now, all you can really do is have as good a look underneath as you can. That's why the MOT histories are important. Try and get a good look at both the front and rear subframes, try and get a look at where they mount onto the body, and try and get a look at the sills. These are all the areas that are really susceptible to rust and rot. Now, of course, you're going to find surface corrosion to some degree under these cars, and any car of this age. It is the UK after all. But what we're looking for is anything that looks structural. So anything that you can poke a hole in, anything that you can get your fingers on and it's crumbling away into dust, no good. Don't buy that car, move on to the next one. There's plenty of them out there, but start with the MOT histories. Not enough people do. Now, another really common thing that you're gonna see on these cars from time to time, even if it's not the case when you first buy it, it might happen within your ownership, is leaks. They can be really leaky, especially in the boot area, but not only the boot area. I'll come on to the cabin in a second. So what happens here is, you can see the boot, it's just the actual opening section of the boot is just this one simple bit of glass. It butts up to a seal which runs right the way around. These can perish, and when they do, they start to let water into the boot. Also, this high level brake light, where it sits, it's on a sort of foam pad, and it can just corrode away over the years, and when it does, that starts to let water in. So what you want to be doing is get into this boot, lift the carpet, get a look in that spare wheel well, and make sure there's not a puddle. Now, if there is, it's not a complete deal breaker. It's not like finding the bodywork rotting away. We can get these seals relatively inexpensively, and it is a DIY job if you fancy having a crack for yourself and seal it back up again, but just factor it into the price that you're paying for the car. It's worth noticing now rather than a week down the line when the car's smelling all musty. Now, the other point that can tend to leak as well is in the cabin. So get a feel of the carpets, and usually it's the seals around the doors letting go in that case. Now, before we get out in that test drive, couple of things for you to check whilst you're still stationary. Goes without saying, check everything that you can. Check the electric windows work if they're fitted. Check that the back windows still pop out. Through lack of use, they can sometimes seize up. But a really big one you want to be checking is the blower motor. So for the fan, the heater, make sure that that is going to the different speed settings and turning off correctly. Now, the blower motor itself, of which I've seen a couple go wrong, it's not too bad. The actual parts are quite cheap, but the labour in order to replace it is massive. That whole dashboard just about has to come out. It's a huge job, gets quite expensive because of that, so make sure it's not the case on the one that you're buying. And here we are, test drive time. Hopefully the car you're looking at has passed all the tests up to this stage and you're actually reaching this point. So go ahead and fire it up. And you can hear how quickly that starter fired in this car. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be slow. If it is, as I mentioned, it's probably needing a new starter. And once it's up and running, a lot of people think these sound a bit broken, but it's just a characteristic of them. They're 3-cylinder, there's a little bit of vibration off them. It's part of their charm, that little warbly noise. And right away here, we can start to test things. So I've got the aircon on. If you turn that on in the one that you're looking at, if you're lucky enough to have aircon, given these are very basic cars, you'll hear the compressor kick in as well. And from there, let's get into first. Nice smooth action, really easy to do. If you're finding you're having to kind of force it into gear, chances are the cables are maybe getting a bit gummed up. The cables that go between your selector here and the gearbox itself, again, relatively inexpensive, can be put right fairly easily. Handbrake, drop that off, and right away here, let's get a feel of the steering. So it's quite assisted in these little cars, as you would expect. They're little city cars, aren't they? Into reverse. The amount of people who forget to check that reverse works and isn't just another neutral on a used car is frightening. There we go, no bad noises. It's going from first to reverse, no problems. And let's get on the move. Now I'm pretty lucky here that the way out of where I usually film, it's got some bumps. You'll probably see it now. Yeah, and they're actually quite fierce. The Aygo is softly sprung, as you would expect, so it's taken the bump out of it. But even then, drop links and suspension components, you can get a good listen to them over rough road and little bumps like that. Drop links on the front are really common. If you're hearing a noise coming off the front, that's probably exactly what it is. Right, let's get moving up to speed and listen out for any other strange noises. In terms of how the engine feels and to drive, it's a zippy little thing. Look for that in the one that you're driving. Don't just expect because it's a little 1 litre 3-cylinder, it's just going to be painfully slow. It's not the case in these. Certainly at these lower round town speeds, it's a zippy little thing. I mean, remember the car only weighs about a ton, so it doesn't need mega power to shift it along. Now, one thing you definitely do want to be thinking about on this drive is the clutch. So ideally, get yourself up to, let's say, 4th gear, if you can, onto a national speed limit bit of road, and put your foot down. Now, what we're looking for is the RPMs shooting up without the car gaining any more momentum. As I mentioned, worn clutches can be really common in these cars. They tend to go through clutches every 30,000-40,000 miles. It seems like this car has, in fact, just had a clutch and it's on 46,000 miles, would you guess it? So make sure it's not the case in the one that you're buying, because although it's not the worst job in the world, it's still a labour-intensive one. It's not one that you want to get flung into once you've just bought a new car. And there you have it. You now have all the tips you need to go off and find yourself a fantastic little Aygo C1 or 107. You do get people saying, I'll never buy a French car, but honestly, they're the exact same. You might as well. In fact, these little Aygos, they tend to carry a price premium because of that very reason. People assume the Toyota is still going to be better. I mean, it's one and the same. Get yourself a C1 or 107 and it's exactly the same. Now, of course, I'd very much concentrate on all the model specific things in these videos, but usual rules apply. So you are listening out for odd knocking noises, you are looking for the steering veering to the left or right, under braking, all the usual stuff that you check in any car. But for now, good luck with your search. Please do hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I'll see you next time.